Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Alexis Hippolyte. Lovely to meet you all this morning. I work for Vodafone at the moment as an IT project manager. At school, I studied science subjects and maths. I went on to university to study engineering, and then I worked in the IT industry ever since, working in a variety of roles, mainly in project management, working for retailers and banks originally, some of the brands you'll know, so companies like Barclays, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Lloyds Bank, to name but a few. And for the older viewers, I also did a rollout for Woolworths. My hobbies and interests are I'm a rugby and football coach, a school governor, and a very amateur runner. I have a family. I have two children, years 4 and 6, and my wife is a year 4 teacher at a primary school. What I'm looking to do today is to just run through a quick objective to make sure that you can all understand how you can become stats champions. Now, you will already today be stats champions, but you probably just don't realize it. So we're going to go through a number of small steps so you can understand actually how we use data, what we do for data that's so important, how we can use data to make the right decisions, and how we can use data to influence others to make the right decisions, and also to make decisions that help us in our day-to-day life. So to start off with, what is data? So data is all around us. As you can see from the slide in front of you, it's information, it's graphs, it's measurements, observations, facts, numbers, quantities. Anything that will influence a decision can be classified as data. Now, you can consider, previous roles that I've had, that it might be the size of a shop, it might be the number of customers in a shop, it might be the type of customers in a shop. In my role today, it might be around how many people will I affect by delivering a bit of software functionality? What will I affect? How will I affect them? Will it be a time saving? Will it be a cost saving? All these data feeds is what we're going to be talking about to help us to bundle that all together so that we can measure actually how that data is important and to help us make informed, intelligent decisions. Okay, so why is data so important? So data informs the decisions we make every day. So I know today is not a normal day, but when I was preparing this, it was before lockdown, so just bear with me. The route you take to school. So there are a number of data points you will consider before you set out to school. So what transport am I going to take? I've got 4 decisions primarily, although you might scoot, skateboard, and various other options, but you're primarily going to walk, cycle, drive, or take a bus or public transport. The weather's going to influence that decision. Is it raining? Is it cold? Is it warm? You're more likely to want to walk if it's warm. If it's raining, you're less likely going to want to cycle because it'll be slippery, wet, and you'll get all mucky. And then there's a safety element. Am I going to take the roads, footpaths? What are the roads like? And then the environment when you get there. What are the parking spaces like for your parents? Can they drop you off 5 miles away from the school, so there's no point in driving? Is there parking near to there? What's the traffic like? Is it therefore quicker to walk even though it's raining? And then the time. Are you running late? Have you got plenty of time? Have you got time to kill? If you got up nice and early, you've had your breakfast, you might want to take a nice walk into school on a nice summer's day. So in that example, you're going to be using those data points to help you make an informed decision. Now, you'll use your brain to make those informed decisions, which is the best processor of data that you have available to you. But in my line of work, I might use spreadsheets or software to help me make those decisions if I have lots of data points and my brain just can't cope with all those data points. So then thinking about how I use data to make the right decisions. So in the previous example, you might have decided it's a warm day, I've got plenty of time, I'm going to walk to school. Or we're running late, it's raining, it's cold, please can we drive? So in my work, and what I do is I work in the software area for Vodafone. So we provide software solutions for our salespeople to enable them to provide content around what we can deliver in terms of solutions for them in a fast, effective way. So I will look at the data points before I start around how much effort it's going to take for me to deliver that bit of functionality out to my user base. So is it going to take a week, a month, a year, or what have you? And then what type of skills do I need from within my own team? So do I need technical development skills? Do I need a supplier or a vendor or the proprietor of the software to help me out? Do I need some design input to understand how it's going to stitch together? And do I need some user input from my sales team to understand what they want to see and how they want to use it? And then what's the benefit of that to our customers in doing something? You know, what actually does that result for our end customers? And how do I compare all of this? What would you do in my situation? How would you compare all those data inputs to understand, you know, what the value is of the output? So you need to think about how you're going to measure the impact, how you're going to analyze it, improve it, and control it. So to take you to another example of what I've done in the past. So a lot of you will have shopped in a Sainsbury's supermarket, and you might have seen that in some of the larger stores, they have an Argos store within them. So a number of years ago, Sainsbury's and Argos got together, and Argos were going to put a number of smaller stores within the Sainsbury's stores. But clearly they had to make some decisions around which stores to put those smaller stores into. So the data inputs in that example were the size of the existing Sainsbury's shop, the number of customers they had, the type of customers they had, i.e. were they buying small items in baskets or large items in trolleys? How close was the nearest Argos store to that or a competitor? And what was the cost of actually building that concession or that small Argos within Sainsbury's? And then the way we analysed whether it was successful or not was how many sales that individual store had over a period of time. And then we fed that back into the decision-making process when we got a bit more money to spend to deliver more stores out there. So that's an example of how we've used data analytics in that particular scenario to enable us to make the right decision. Next, we think about how can data influence others? So back to what I do every day. So how do I measure something? Now, time is quite an important one. So what I'm delivering today. So how much time has an individual saved per week? So we need to think about time. Is it a one-off time saving? So does that individual save a time once and never again? Or is it recurring? i.e. does he save that time of 5 minutes every single day for the rest of his life? How many people save that time? Is it one person? Is it 10? Is it 1,000 people? And that will give me my total time saving. So you need to think about how you would allow that calculation to take place to enable you to understand what is the total time saving. And then cost, what's the value of that time? You could think about it in terms of how much they're paid, and that's how much cost I have saved. Or you could think about it, how much more they can now do for you and our our customers in Vodafone. And then there's the impact on performance. So I've saved them 30 minutes. Are they therefore happy, more effective? Have I made their life a bit better? And that total benefit. So what does that mean? Do I now have a happier, more effective workforce? So another example, which I'm going to just turn to, is around my daughter, Eva. So she's a really, really keen baker. So she often will look at data points, or I will look at data points to try and influence an outcome of what she's going to bake. So first of all, there's time. So how much time does she have to bake something? A cake will take longer than biscuits, so we need to consider that in. Then there's the complexity of what she's going to do. So is it a highly skilled, difficult cake, or is it a really quite an easy biscuit she's going to do? Ingredients, do we have them available to us today? All these data inputs are going to feed into the outcome. Now, I will try and influence that decision, knowing that I like a chocolate biscuit. I will always gear her down that route to suggest that she doesn't have much time. We definitely have chocolate in the house, therefore chocolate biscuits are the desired outcome. So I'm using that data to influence her to get my desired outcome. Okay, so we've briefly gone through how we can use data every day to make smart decisions. So I'm going to give you a number of examples now where you're going to ensure that you understand that you today make smart decisions using data. So what snack do you want to eat? You will understand that a sugary snack with lots of chocolate in it isn't necessarily the most healthy thing. So you might go to your parents and suggest a healthier snack rather than a chocolatey one, knowing that you will get a snack if it's healthier. Is it time to watch television? So have you done your homework, helped your parents? That is more likely to give you the desired outcome that you want. You're going to use those data inputs to make the right decision. My children will often come to me and say, Daddy, I've done my homework, I've tidied my room, can I watch television? And the outcome is more likely to be desirable and positive than if they just ask me if they want to watch TV. Again, how you get to school, what's the weather like? You're using those data decisions every day to make the right decision. Now, I saw my son actually processing data to make the right decision just the other day. We were at home and Sam is just beginning to play rugby and he's learning how to tackle. And he spotted that his sister was nearby. So he used the following data inputs. What was her mood like? Was she happy? Was she sad? Was she grumpy? How far away was she? Was it likely that he could get to her in time? What would the impact be? Is she going to be happy, laugh, or fight him because of it? And what therefore is the success factors going to be? That drove him to make a decision of him tackling his sister, knocking her over, and then both laughing, which was a great success. So just to summarize, we now understand what data is, i.e. we know that lots of different things feed into data. We know why it's important because it helps us form and make informed decisions. We know that we can use data to make the right decisions. Now, as life gets a bit more complicated, you'll need to manipulate and understand that data using different tool sets. So in the examples I've given, you'll use your brain to process that data to make the right decisions, but actually I might have to use a data mining solution or Excel or any other means to get to the right outcome of that decision that I need to make. You understand now how data can influence others, i.e. I'm going to feed some data into someone to help them understand others. As life gets a bit more complicated, you might have to think about actually how do I present the data to enable people to understand that I've made the right decision. So when you're thinking about what film or TV show you want to promote, you might think about, right, what data have I got to understand what was a successful program in the past? So you might look at the top 10 films of all time, understand that the vast majority of them are fictional films, and therefore make a decision to say, if I want a successful film, I need to go for a fictional film because the data has shown me that fictional films are more successful than non-fictional films. And then you're going to come out of the other side and realize that, yes, I am now a stats champion. I now understand what data is, why it's important, and how I can use it to make the right decision. You're going to think about how you're going to present it to people. So do you want to show them in a graph, in a Word format? You know, that is what you need to be thinking about in terms of how you present your data. Okay, so hopefully that's given you something to think about. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we've got some questions now.
Thank you for that. That was really interesting, all of the different personal anecdotes, and you don't realise quite how much data you use on a, autonomously.
Indeed, yeah. We process data every single day. It feeds into us. It informs us on what decisions we make on a daily basis. We just need to realize that, understand it, and understand that we all are little data scientists without realizing it. And we just need to have the confidence to move forward. At Vodafone, we're positively encouraged to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, you learn from it so quickly. So much faster than if you just avoid it and try and circumvent the issue that you've got. Just tackle the issue. If you make a mistake, learn from it, and you'll be a better person for it.
Yeah. So what made you want to go into the field of data engineering or data science?
So in terms of using data every day, it's unavoidable. So, I'm a project manager by trade. So I've used data throughout my career to enable me to make the right decisions. So it was a sort of an evolution, if you like, of my daily job to use data more and more and more. So whether it was when we were rolling out cash machines for Barclays, and we needed to understand, what the usage was, what the cost of change was, what the impact of change was in terms of time, what other environmental considerations we had to make around permissions from listed buildings or high risk materials that may be within the buildings. All that data we had to feed in to make sure that we met a timeline to get a job done. And so you just end up using data continuously. At Vodafone, we are so keen to ensure that we make informed decisions and use data to make those informed decisions. So, we will always look at the prioritization of what tasks we want, because there might be 20 things we want to achieve, but only have the capacity to deliver 10. So therefore, you need to be able to analyze those 20 in the same way to understand what value they can bring, so you make the smart decision about doing the right 10 things.
Yeah. And do you think that you need to be a creative person to use data in a career?
No, I think anyone can use data in a career. I think we all use data every single day. I just don't believe that we necessarily realize that we're using data in every day. It's much like the STEM subjects. We all use science, technology, engineering, and maths every single day in everything that we do. We just don't necessarily realize it. The fundamentals that the younger viewers are doing today in maths is what we all use, those of us who are slightly older, every single day. We just don't realize it because it just comes naturally. So I think it's something that is just natural to people. Some people are more interested in data than others, and that will always be the case. But generally, I think that there is a passion there for everyone. It's all about how you present it. Certain people prefer to see things in word format. Some people are more visual, so they'll much rather see a graph or a pie chart or a bar chart to be able to understand the data. So you just need to understand what your audience's preferences are and then present it to them in that way so they can digest and understand it.
Yeah. Is climate change important to you?
Yeah, hugely important personally and both for Vodafone as an organisation. So personally, I'm very concerned about the climate. The one good thing about lockdown is we're using our cars less. There's far less of an impact on the environment in not traveling into work every day, which is great. We have to make sure that we recycle a lot. I actually hang around in a very cold office because I refuse to put the heating on during the day because of the impact of it. So I do think that the environment is our biggest challenge that we have. We have to consider all the decisions that we make around day-to-day life, making sure we don't buy too much stuff, we don't buy stuff unnecessarily, are we recycling enough? So yes, very, very keen on the environment. The school I'm a governor at is a really keen environmental school, and they are very much geared towards ensuring they have a low impact to the environment.
Yeah. You mentioned that your wife is a teacher. What does she think about the STATWARS challenge?
She thinks it's great. She's really, really keen to get more and more kids involved in STEM subjects. She's very excited that I'm doing this, really, really supportive. Hopefully her and her class are listening in, so I'm sure I'll get some feedback towards the end of the day. In terms of environmental challenges, you know, in primary school, you know, loads of primary schools are really keen on it. The children are much more engaged than the older generation in terms of understanding the need of reuse of paper, making sure they don't use too many raw materials, making sure they don't waste too much food at lunchtime. So, you know, they're really good actually. And I think that the next generation are really going to improve things going forward, but we just need to make sure that our behaviours change to make sure the impact on the environment is minimalised as much as possible.
Definitely. We have had a question. So how has AI changed how we use data?
So AI is brilliant and fantastic. So what AI can do for us. So if I talk about what I'm currently doing as my project, so I'm rolling out a tool that enables sales guys to have all the marketing content in Vodafone made available to them in one portal. So we use AI algorithms to enable the right content to be produced for the right person. So we take feeds in terms of where that salesperson is based in the world, what products they're looking at, what customers they've got, what the size of their customer is, and what opportunity they're looking at. So what field, whether it's Internet of Things, security, cloud solutions, and then the algorithm will generate the right and relevant information forward to enable us to make the right decision in presenting the right documentation to our customer base. So AI is hugely important. It will definitely help us to use data in the right way to make sure that we understand, you know, what we're doing and what the impact is of what we're doing.
Do you think that STATWARS benefits, you know, the budding engineers of our generation?
I really hope so. I hope that it gives the younger generation the ability to understand how relevant people's work are to what they do today. So often the fear is as you move through your education that there's an element of the unknown out there. So, you know, we're trying to make it relevant so that they can understand that actually, you know, people might have a really complex job title, but actually what they do is quite simple and can be broken down to enable a younger person to understand actually which direction they really want to go into. So, you know, science and technology absolutely opens up a wealth of doors for people to go into all kinds of different organizations. So I would have never envisaged when I was a younger kid making those decisions on what A-levels to take, actually that I'd end up working for a mobile phone company, mainly because mobile phones didn't exist then, but it's you know, you never know what direction you're going to take and, you know, do something you're passionate about. And I'm really passionate about science and technology.
What do you think your favorite part of your job is?
My favorite part of my job is actually when it comes to the excitement of delivering something or a bit of functionality or capability out to an end user. So whether that be when we would open a brand new Argos shop in a Sainsbury's, or the first person would use a cash point machine, or when we roll out, you know, via something similar to this to, you know, a load of sales guys and girls on, you know, what their new functionality is, and then seeing the feedback of that, i.e. a delighted customer, someone whose life we've made a lot easier, and seeing that benefit actually be achieved within an individual. So when someone turns around to me and says, thanks a million, you saved me, you know, 2 hours work and effort because I can just go into your system and I've got what I need straight away, is just exactly why I get up and go to work every day, to see that output come through it. And then the process is really interesting as well. You know, over the last year, I know that we've had a really different year, all of us, whether it's homeschooling, you know, not having mum and dad as your teachers to guide us through, you know, actually working through that environment where we're remotely working is exciting, and I think is probably the way of the future, to be honest. So I've embraced it, definitely.
Would you say that your Argos and Sainsbury's integration was your largest project that you've done so far?
No, it probably wasn't, but it's the most relevant. So in that it's a really easy one to sort of picture for people to understand. They've probably seen one. They can really easily understand, right, okay, so if it's a small store, you can't put an Argos concession in there, so that's ruled out straight away, right? So, you know, what's the cost going to be? Well, if I have to move a load of refrigeration, it's really expensive, versus moving a few clothing aisles, that's probably really cheap. So it's about relevance. So, you know, whenever I'm talking about anything, you know, and it's a really interesting segue into data, is to try and make it relevant to people. Because especially in IT, you can often get a lot of people talking highly technical language. And in this current climate where you're not around a table, you need to make sure that everyone understands what the point you're trying to make. And therefore relevance is an important topic. So I would always tend to make it as relevant as possible for people. In terms of sort of largest project, in terms of impact, it would probably be a server rollout we did to all of the Tesco stores. So all 4,000 odd stores we deployed new servers to. So essentially we closed every Tesco store for a very short period of time to enable a server migration to take place. So that was quite big and challenging.
I can imagine.
And you'd be amazed as to where they keep their servers. It's astonishing, the technology behind the stores.
Well, I think that's all of the time we've got for questions. So I'd just like to give a big thank you to you for doing your presentation and answering all of our questions. And also a big thank you to everyone that's been watching and sending in the questions. I hope you've all been inspired to take on the STATWARS competition, and all of the resources can be found on our website, which is www.statwarscompetition.com. And to help you, and please join in our upcoming interviews. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.